episode of Class is in Session. This podcast, exclusively on Black enterprise, highlights the latest happenings inside HBCU classrooms, the business side of HBCU sports, public policy issues facing these historic institutions, and HBCU alum who are making major moves, especially in the business world. I'm your host, Ashley Stevens, and today I'm excited about my special guest. She's an author, an artist, a designer, a creative director, and the owner of Abeille Creations, and she's a proud HBCU alumna. She's here to talk about a new exclusive exhibition at Bloomingdale's in Lenox Square and her journey as an artist and designer from an HBCU. Please help me welcome Melissa Mitchell.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, we are so excited to have you in all your vibrancy and all your color. You are in full bloom, my sister, full bloom.
Yes, we're ahead of spring. We're ready to march right into spring. Literally, we're ready.
Literally ready. And you know what? I think I see it and all the beautiful colors you're wearing. I think I see a little touch of orange and green, a little orange and green.
I had to make sure I was intentional about what I wore today. So yes, I have an orange and green.
Yes. And that would be representing who for our audience?
The Florida A&M University on the highest of 7 hills, founded in 1887.
Okay. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Melissa, let's hop right in. Tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? And then why did you choose an HBCU, specifically FAMU?
Oh, good. Don't get me started. I am from Miami, Florida, born and raised, and I came to Atlanta post FAMU, and I wanted to live in a city that reminded me of being at HBCU every day. And so when we were about 5 years old, my dad would bring me to FAMU's homecoming. And, my parents were young parents, so they were excited. They were, vibrant on campus. And I remember falling in love with seeing all these Black women dressed up. They had their books. Back in the day, folks used to dress up for real. They had books in their hands. I saw the AKAs on campus, and I was like, oh, I'm coming here. And I would not shut up talking about FAMU since a toddler. And so we have been to every homecoming for the past 30 years, with the exception of 2020. And choosing FAMU, of course, was my number one choice, but I chose it because I saw who my family members were when they came back from FAMU. And it was like so awe-inspiring to see the entire, the transformation in the way they spoke, the friends that they had, the memories, the way their eyes lit up, talking about FAMU, the networks. And I said, oh, honey, when it's my time, I'm going to FAMU. And I have not been disappointed in making that decision.
I love to hear that. So it's been a whole family affair, a family legacy to attend FAMU. And I know you said you were intentional about your colors, the orange and green. And, I had to wear some pink and green in here today.
Yes, I got some pink and green in there too now. I had to add razzle with the dazzle. Yes, ma'am.
I see it. My sister is Sora for the first of the finest. That's exciting to know that you had a whole, family history in choosing FAMU. What did you study? What was your major? Because I want to kind of find out how that aligns with what you're doing now as an artist and entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I was a public relations student. Hence, I'm able to do anything that I put my mind to. Public relations was my undergrad, and then I also minored in graphic design. Imagine that, right? And I got stayed behind because I wanted to stay a little longer on campus. I got my master's in public management, and my goal was to have 2.5 kids, work at Coca-Cola, move to Atlanta, have a yellow BMW, and none of that stuff happened. So I ended up moving back home in 2006, and I kept telling my parents, we need to move to Atlanta, and I don't need to just go. I said, everybody needs to follow me. And my dad at the time was transitioning from being a full-time pastor to being an apostle. And he said, you know what? Atlanta sounds like a good idea. And I think moving here really, really enhanced my ability to relate to the public. And although I did not go directly into my field, I always find myself in the lobby talking to people, selling different concepts, helping people understand things. I was like, wow, I'm still walking in my major, although I'm not getting paid for that. And then I kind of used it later on for my success.
Love to hear you said you're still walking in your major. And I think that's important for students who are watching to hear, right? You may have studied one thing and entered another field, as your profession. Let's talk a little bit about how you journey, your journey into being an artist and designer. Have you always had a natural gift for art?
I think I call myself a peacock, right? I love to watch the scene and then I just bust out with a bunch of colors, right? So again, going back to that 5-year-old girl, my parents used to let me wear pink cowgirl boots with my uniform. So I've always been expressive through color and never knowing I would become this woman, right? But I think God did. And I think it's so amazing how I look back on my life and talk to old friends. They're like, girl, you always been this extra. I was like, have I? Not me. So it was never through a brush. It was always through my speaking, it was through clothing, it was through the friendships that I was able to foster, it was the trips that I took, all those different things. And so I think all along, art was whispering in my ear to say, girl, just come on. This is your safe place. Come visit us. And when I finally picked up that brush in 2014, I felt like it was like I had a second coming. It was like, wait a minute, this might be it. And I
Wow.
remember the first piece I ever did. I put it on Instagram, and a rattler was like, "Girl, I buy that." I was like, bruh, this is just like random activities during a snowstorm. He's like, no, it matches a pillow. I buy it for $25. And I was like, okay. And then it cost me like 50 cents worth of, material. And I was like, wait a minute. If people are buying this with no intention, imagine if I really tried to do something. And I kid you not, when that snow melted, honey, I had so much art materials in my car. You would have thought I was a real painter. I went to Michael's. I started joining all the art clubs. I started going to all the art scenes. I became an artist overnight. Like when you say overnight, I immersed myself in the world of art. And so going back to that major, I learned how to market myself as one of my favorite, pieces of collateral. I became the client and the product all at once. And so now I'm a walking billboard for ABL Creations.
Literally a walking
Literally,
billboard full of
literally,
color,
literally.
full of vibrancy. I love to see it. I love to see
Yeah.
your work and the expression. ABL Creations. Tell us about your company and where the name derived.
So I talk about my father a lot. He was one of my best friends. He passed away 2010. And he always used to tell me the story about when my mom got pregnant. He kept having a dream about a little girl in a yellow dress. And he said that they didn't know this, they didn't know the sex at the time. They almost had to wait till you were born to find out the sex in the
Mhm.
80s. And my dad said, if she be a girl, we're going to name her Melissa, because Melissa means honeybee in Greek. And my dad at the time was studying the productivity of bees. And he said, whoever we give birth to is going to defy the odds. She's going to be something people never thought of. She's going to be a hard worker, and she's going to be sweet. And so Melissa is from the word honey, which is mellifera. And so when I went to choose the name for the company, I said, you know what? I got to find a way to pay homage to dad and also be kind of like ambiguous. Like they don't know if it's a girl, a boy. They don't know if you're American. They don't know if you're short, tall. And so ABL stood out because ABL means honey in French. So it
Wow.
became Melissa's Creations, but ABL Creations. So it is the fruit of my labor. It's my honey that I share with the world.
I love that. The literal fruit of your labor, and that
Yes,
your father
yes.
knew from before we talk about, biblically,
Jeremiah
God
29:11.
knew
Don't
you
get me
when you
started.
were in your parent you're in your mother's womb, like he knew you, right? And your father and your parents knew and saw a vision for the bright
Yes,
light that you
yes,
would be, right? And
yes,
how a bee goes from
yes.
flower to pick up things, like you get inspiration from the world as you see it and you create art from it. Like how prophetic was that
Girl, I
before
mean,
you were
just
born?
I'm getting chills. Like I had no idea that I would become this. And even in my father's death, and the people ask me all the time, did you study this? I said no, but I feel like I was being taught this my whole life. And when my dad passed away, he was headed out, and I was headed to Mardi Gras. And he said, I want to stop you for a minute and give you double of what I have. I'm like, double. I said, Dad, you being dramatic. Past is always double, had a really strong voice. And I didn't know it at the time, but he was transferring his mantle to me, double what he had. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Elijah and Elisha. He literally transferred everything he had. So all the business acumen, all the je ne sais quoi, all the ability to teach myself. I taught myself all these things, but I believe in my father transition, he knew that it would be okay because he had done everything he was supposed to do to leave enough behind. And so ABL Creations is not only a manifestation of my hard work, I believe it's double of what my dad would have done had he still been here.
That's remarkable. That is beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Did he get to see the beginning of the creation of your business?
Nope,
No.
nothing, none of it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. I think it's beautiful that, as you meant, you're still carrying him with you, right?
yeah,
Like, and the things that he
yeah,
taught you into your business venture. What a beautiful story. Like,
yeah,
what a beautiful story. ABL Creations. And listen, it sounds like not only have you created double, but you're continuing to expand and grow. your network, your net worth, your influence. You have some major brand partnerships. Tell us about them. I know some of them
Just a
include
little.
Footlocker, SPANX, Cantu Beauty. Like, talk about some of the
Yes.
brand partnerships you have and what that means for ABL Creations.
I always talk about not knowing what I'm doing, but I always want to focus on the end goal, and I'm okay with how I get there. It's almost like being on the GPS. And my favorite thing on the GPS is check for alternate routes. I was like, well, let me just make sure, right? I feel like God keep pressing alternate route on my life. I was like, all right, God, now this is enough. I just want to get on 285 and go to the mall. I'm on a side street. So I've been on so many side streets of life that I've had to remain open. And those side streets have prepared me for moments such as this. When I talk about SPANX, I applied for it, my computer crashed. I sent it to my sister to apply for it, her computer crashes. And I was like, well, God, you told me to apply for this, so I leave it alone. Girl, about 3 weeks later, I get a DM directly from Spanx on, that's when IG was like far more like archaic. And I'm like, okay, enough. Okay, sure, you want to tell. She was like, no, we're looking for Melissa Mitchell. She's a top finalist, but her email is not working because again, my application wasn't correctly working, but they received it, but the email didn't go through. Girl, they
Wow.
told me I was a top finalist. I run out of my corporate job at the time. I'm just like, okay, God, if you get me to the door, I'm running in there. And so, needless to say, I won the competition. Got a global deal with Spanx. Met Sarah Blakely. Had a
Mhm.
launch party. It sells out. Number one selling bra of its in its class. And I just sat in the room and just kind of muted everybody out. And I said, God, you promised it and you did it. And I
Wow.
said, I'm gonna need another one and another one. So then I go on to win a Ford Explorer. Then I seal a deal with Cadillac. Then I seal a deal with working with Nike doing Art Basel. Then I launch a deal with Microsoft as an official designer and now making curriculums. Then I'm sold in Footlocker,
Wow.
nationwide. So it's like once that one domino of excellence begin to fall, it was like an amazing, launch through it all. Which brings us to why we're talking today. One of my
Yes.
girlfriends called me. It's funny. Rewind last November, I had a bunch of empty canvases in my office. I said, Lord, I need to fill this stuff up. And so my friend was like, why are you painting? I said, God told me to get ready. It literally,
Mm.
I felt like I was Noah, like start building the ark, right? And so
Yeah.
I just start painting all kinds of pieces. And I'm a painter, so I do it anyway, but I just felt like a rush. Girl, my friend calls me January, probably about the second, right around Founders Day, of course. She's like, hey, I'm meeting with Bloomingdale's. They have this amazing space. They want to, do a collab with an artist. She said, I'm not really sure what it is, but just talk to her. So we get on the call and she's like, hey, we have an empty gallery that we would love to fill up. I said, well, what do you say? I said, how many pieces you think can fit in there? She said, I don't know, about 20 or so. I had 22 pieces painted since November.
Where's my tambourine? What? Yeah. Did you
I had
see?
22 pieces painted, and I'm just like, I said, wait, Kara, we just wait a minute, Kathy. She's like, no, like, I mean, I don't know how soon you can bring. I said, I can bring tomorrow. She said, no, I want to give you time. I said, I'm ready. I'm already ready. And she couldn't believe it. My friend Alex couldn't believe it. She said, Melissa, we're not even that close. Like God literally said, call Melissa. This is like my friend in creativity. We see each other on Instagram. I'm proud of you, girl. I'm proud of you. And so God would place me on someone that's not my close friend because God saw me preparing for whatever it was that I was praying for. And 4 months later, I am now featured, the only Black woman to do so in Bloomingdale's in my own gallery for 2 months, not only running through Black History Month, but I'm now running all the way through Women's History Month and possibly longer because people are so in love with the space. So it went from me not knowing what my purpose would be to picking up that brush to
Yeah.
all these amazing brand deals and to now, really listening. I say God is my greatest business partner because he prepares me before they even come, before the calls even come, before the interviews even come. I literally have a hanging area with nothing but outfits already laid out. So you're like, okay, we doing HBCU? Okay. We doing AK? Okay. We doing polka dots? Okay. So I'm ready. So every time a call comes, there's no room to prepare for war. You already got to have your gun loaded. So my creative gun stays loaded because I know if I'm praying for it, I need to be preparing for it. And when the call
Yes.
comes, 1:15, okay, I got my set ready. We're here.
Wow. Wow. This is I love to hear it. It's a whole
Yes,
faith
yes.
move, it's a whole business move, it's a whole black
Listen,
woman in business move.
HBCU. I mean, don't get me started on my
HBC
network,
Oh my goodness.
honey.
I do wanna I wanna come back to your network, but I wanna talk a little bit about Bloomingdale. So,
Yes,
you're the first Black woman to have an exclusive exhibit in
yes.
Bloomingdale's. You're in Lenox Mall. Now,
Lennox.
tell us about some Lenox Square, I'm sorry.
No, no, I'm saying in Lennox. Like Lennox is like the mall you go to in Atlanta. Like you go to Atlanta, you go to Lennox. I don't care if you're going to get a keychain. You stop by Lennox Mall. Like that is your stop. I go to, we go to Zaxby's, we go to Chick-fil-A, but Lennox is like the stop.
That's
Yes.
the stop. That's the stop. So you are a Black woman that has her own creations,
Yes.
ABL Creations in Bloomingdale's. Tell
Yes.
us what are some of the exhibits and items that are on display and for sale. So can people buy
Yes.
these items in person and online?
So because I am so I'm so technologically driven, instead of having things hanging, I let them shop through technology. So I have QR codes in the carpets all over the gallery. So they can learn about me. I have a video. Hey guys, welcome to, they're like, wait a minute, it's a whole pop out experience. And so you come into the space, you have custom carpets that are for sale. And you can purchase it directly through the link. You have floor length, curtains that are for sale. I have bubble coat that is just recently launched during Fashion Week. So you have all of these things that you had no idea that an artist could also design so many other things. So I have like bags on display. So I'm telling my artistic story in a short amount of time in just a small room. So in addition to that, of course, I have 22 pieces hanging gallery style, all my different styles through different faces and patterns and colors and textures. They get to experience it in a 30-second, room room view.
Wow. This is remarkable. This is absolutely remarkable. I'm so excited for you.
Thank
And I
you.
guess I wanted to you've talked a little bit about how faith has clearly been a big catalyst and big
Yes.
part of your forward movement as an entrepreneur, as an artist and a designer. On the natural side, have you faced any challenges in entrepreneurship, right? Leaving a corporate role and moving more into the artistic, creative side?
It is, and I've never attributed artists to starving, but people are like, well, how are you doing it? Why? All these things. And I think for me is when you don't know what you're doing, you don't subscribe to the normalcy of what a role may have. And so I'm not an artist. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a
Mm,
manifester. I'm an air carrier. I'm a legacy, bearer. So I know that I don't have a plan B. This has to work. I've definitely had some challenges with my health. That's why I ended up leaving my job. I was like, this place is making me sick. My boss, oh, you're just being dramatic. I mean, I can't sleep. I can't eat certain foods. I was like, what is happening? So I quit my job February 11th, 2021. Leave the job, and miraculously, all the ailments stopped. I said, well, wait a minute. Was it
no,
the job? Was it the job?
uh-oh.
And so my doctor's like, we don't have any explanation why you're not sick anymore. I said,
Wow.
oh, I think I know why. And
Wow.
so, that ended. And I think jobs are answered prayers too. That's why it was so hard for me to just walk away. But
Mhm.
once it became uncomfortable, that's when I knew that it was time to go. And so many people, you need to quit your job. I said, no, I'll know. Literally, it's that knowing that sits in your belly that you can't explain to anybody else. It's like, God told me to do this. This is what I need to do. And I'm glad that I was on my own timeline. I didn't do it because Ashley said or because Monique said. It was a God and I thing. And I always encourage entrepreneurs to have a plan, but be open to how God has makes it work. When I got the Footlocker opportunity, I had no plan. I had no idea how I was going to make it. I had some savings, but I was like, God, I need some money. And it worked itself out. But it's faith. Faith is your absolute biggest tool in your toolkit as an entrepreneur. And no matter what God you believe in, you have to believe in yourself. And I think that is my secret weapon, my out loud weapon, is that I really have to put, all 10 toes on the ground and say, I'm gonna do this and run full speed ahead. And guess what? I can always go back to work. With this momentum right now I have as an artist, I said my craft deserved some undivided attention. I was tired of cheating on my art with my full-time job. And so
Mm.
now that we're married, we're happily married. It's been a beautiful union.
I love to hear that. A beautiful union because you're
Yes,
married to
yes,
your art. Tell us
yes.
what you want and what you hope people will see when they see your artwork and when they see your displays.
On Sunday there was a fashion show and they used my gallery, and I walked up on people experiencing the art, and it just made me so emotional. A man said, wow, whoever this is really, really, really loves color. I can see what she's trying to say. She must know her African heritage. She loves texture. And I'm just like, I'm in the corner like, oh my gosh. So it's amazing how people can feel your energy through your work. It's like, y'all can
Mm,
see that, so my goal is just to inspire to people to follow their dreams, to do more. It's okay to have a full-time job and be an entrepreneur. It's okay to follow your dreams and fail. It may not work out, but if you don't do it, you'll never know. So I just want people to try to live bigger and live fuller. Because at the end of the day, they're just gonna be reading your obituary like everybody else and moving on to the next thing. And so
mm,
if we can make
mhm.
that dash as colorful and as amazing as possible between the year you're born until the year you're called back to wherever you're gonna go, that's my goal. Is to say, girl, put an exclamation point on that dash. Let people know you were here. Be
Yes.
remembered. Let people understand who you are. And that's my goal.
Well, you're living it out loud in living color, in full color. I
Yes,
love to see
yes.
it. And Melissa, we had the privilege of connecting at Clark Atlanta University this
Another
past fall,
HBCU. Yes,
speaking to students. Yes, speaking to HBCU students with the UNCF Empowerment Tour. This is all about getting HBCU students ready for their careers. And I want
yes.
to know why it's important for you to speak to HBCU students and give back to them and pour into them, specifically when it comes to talking about careers and entrepreneurship as well.
I want people to know that you don't have to be perfect to get it right. I
Mm.
think we come out of college with the expectation that we'll get the job, or it's going to work out, or you'll get married immediately, or it's going to be perfect. And I want to show that those alternate routes that are on your GPS, they'll get you to the destination. You're gonna be fine. That job telling you no, it's not the end of the world. We're in very tumultuous times in our, economy, but when you find your gift, work on it, cultivate it, use your network. I mean, we talk about FAMU. My greatest opportunities have come from being at a FAMUan. You think about all the connecting dots that you made, but it was while I was at those 4 years on the highest of seven hills, I was taught all of this stuff. And when you think about the Harriet Tubmans of the world, they never kept going and didn't look back. This is my look back moment. This is my let me reach back and make sure somebody's behind me and somebody's behind them. That is how we keep the story of freedom to create an excellence open. We have to keep reaching back. And so it's so important to reach down that ladder, to reach back and say thank you, and to really, really show people that we are greater together and we're greater when we share this information. We're renewed by the testimonies of our brothers and sisters. And so if I made a mistake and learned from it, I could shave about 10 years off a young person's life. If I just share a sentence worth of information. And I think that is my calling, is to make sure I'm a sharer, a giver, and a doer, because if I could do it for somebody, somebody can do it for the next person. And it just continues to roll and roll and roll on.
Love to hear a sharer, a giver, and a doer. And you are all of those things. And I'm always
Yeah.
encouraged to see you again pouring into young people in
Yes.
all the ways that you do. And glad to hear that HBCU network
Girl.
continues to be a catalyst, right? For
Yes, it
pushing
keeps
you
on
forward in
giving.
your work. Yeah, and
Yes.
helping other young
Yes.
people coming behind you. That's important. That's really, really important. Well, Melissa, before we go, two other things I'm curious to know. I know that your gorgeous head wrap that we see you displaying
Yes.
there, and,
Yes.
and some of your apparel has been worn by the likes of celebs and influencers like Lupita Nyong'o,
Yes.
Tabitha Brown, and others.
Yes.
What was it like to see
Yes.
some of these influential women wearing your art?
I'll just share, the two stories with Lupita and Tab. Tab ordered before she blew up and became the Auntie Tab that we knew. She was just an actress with an IMBD trying to figure it out like everybody else. But I got an order right at the top of 2020 of like $200 or $300 worth of stuff, and I was like, "Does anybody know who Tabitha Brown is?" I Googled, because something kept saying this name sounds like somebody, but I just saw she had one or two roles, and I said, "Wow, she seems like a really nice person." She did. She said, "Girl, I love your stuff. It's so beautiful." I'm just okay, girl. Love you too. 2 weeks later, she blew up and was in New York Times, and she wore Abeille Creations. And she said, I didn't know what was about to happen, but I knew I had to have something on from you." And I'm like, "Girl, me?" And it was like God whispers my name in the influential. It's just that I'm so humbled that God would remember me and put me in the minds of people. We talk about Lupita. When I first made my first head wrap, that was when we were talking about, Afrocentric, cutting their hair off. And I think it was right before Black Panther. I was like, Lupita needs to wear my wraps. Like, I just put it on a sheet of paper. It was a short list. She was number one. I said, I'm going to DM her stylist, child. What's going to happen? You going to say no? Cool. Girl, he answers me back. He said, hey, we're on set in London, but I think she would love your work. Just send me a couple and I'll just see what happens. A few months roll by. I was like, wait, it said it was delivered in London. I said, maybe he didn't get it. I was like, child, whatever. I'm sitting at lunch. I'll never forget it. We were just leaving a museum. Me and my girlfriend were having Mexican al pan de Leon. She said, Mel, check your phone, check your phone. I'm like, girl, what is going on? I was like, oh my God, Lupita's in Vogue magazine with my head wrap, And so she not only wore the head wrap,
Wow.
she said it's one of her favorite things to keep in her bag. And she had it sprawled out with a book, all this designer stuff and then my stuff. And I think
Wow.
seeing it in Vogue, the highest of the high with the highest actress of the time, God is saying there is nothing too hard to ask. There's nothing too big to ask. There's no one too big to ask of it from. And so that was I think that was my faith launching pad for Abeille Creations. I had been doing it for about a year and a half, 2 years at that point. And I was like, I guess I'm an artist. I'm doing this stuff, not really. It's kind of like I was in a hamster wheel, like, God, this is just a fun thing to do. But I think that solidified my faith, but also my ability to dream bigger than the living room that I was sitting in, bigger than my mama's house. At the time, I was still living at home. I was like, God, I got to get out of here, but I need a plan. And that became my okay, if I could believe Lupita in Vogue could be in my stuff, I could probably make it to some red carpets. I could make it to some movies. I could make it to be $1 million business, and the sky was not even the limit after that.
Wow. That is remarkable. That is remarkable. And you said you had a short list. You had written her name down on a list of.
Because at the time, a lot of people weren't wearing head wraps as a fashion statement. It was like I'm running to the store. It wasn't a normalized thing. Now head wraps are, they got jewels on them. They got little head, all kind of adornments. Back then, it was just like a head wrap was when their hair was done and they didn't want to mess it up.
Wow. Wow. You really spoke that into existence. You really did. Like you
Truly.
wrote the vision and you have been making it plain. Not only plain, you've been making the vision loud, colorful, vibrant for all to see.
Ain't nothing plain about this word.
Ain't nothing plain about it. Ain't nothing plain about it.
Yeah.
Well, Melissa, what's next? What's next for Abeille Creations and for Melissa Mitchell?
What I could share, my next big grand goal is to be to design a plane. I want to see, because I always talk about the sky isn't the limit. I want to see it in the sky, whether it's Delta, whether it's Bahamas Air, whether it's, Spirit, whoever I need to get on. I want to see either the wings or the side of a plane or the belly of the plane have some art on it, or whether it be a tray on the screen. I want to be like, when people travel and go places, I want to go with them in a very unique way. And I think the airline is my next thing. So when I look at this video in X amount of days, weeks, months, and years, I'd be like, girl, I spoke into existence February 24th. I'd have messed around and said it out loud.
Yes.
I think that's mine. But of course, home decor. I want to work on baby stuff, more collaborations. All of our favorite stores, from the Target to the Walmarts to the Nordstrom to the Bloomingdales. I think retail at this point, I don't even think it's a big prayer. It's a phone call or email away. So I said, let me go bigger. I want to go into the sky. That's my next big prayer.
I love to hear it. Well, it's going to happen. You've already spoken it. You're preparing for it. It's going to happen. And as you're on your way to the sky, you're also on the fastest, tracks on the ground.
Oh,
too.
yes.
Tell us about your partnership with NASCAR.
Oh my God. I forgot. Look, this is how fast my life is going. So with Microsoft, they sponsored an amazing HBCU student, Raja Karuth. But he's the youngest, the brownest, the HBCUist driver. And during Art Basel, they wanted to make a statement, and they were like, "We just can't take no bland NASCAR down there." So my phone began to ring. I said, "What y'all need?" And again, being ready, he said, "We need a painting with Miami on it." I said, "I already got it." He said, "Well, I'm gonna hook you up with the printer, blow up the frame of the actual pixels of the painting, get it to them." We had a NASCAR printed in 4 days with my design because the art was already ready.
Oh my goodness, that's remarkable.
So that was remarkable. That was another unseen prayer. I was like, I didn't even know I wanted this to happen, but thank you, God. So that's how I ended 23, zooming into 24. That was my last huge thing of 2023. So that was and to know that I was able to be a part of a young black king's dream, and what he's been able to do even since then. I mean, his dad has been letting him drive since he was small. Like, he had a need for speed at like 9 years old. His dad would just say, well, that's what he want to do, and they cultivated it. They didn't say, oh, you can't do no cars, go to class. And he literally has been driving and preparing since a teenager, and now he's one of the youngest, fastest, most amazing drivers that they've seen.
I'm excited for you, Melissa. It seems that everything you've touched has turned into artistic gold. I'm just excited to see how your faith journey and being obedient to what you were told and the guidance and direction you were given, you followed it. And everything you have done every door has opened up, and everything you've spoken has manifested. I'm so proud of you for that. And I'm so excited to see that with all that you're doing, you're still taking time to pour into HBCU students as well. I mean, because they need it, right? They need someone to say, hey, she had one path, she went another way, and look what has blossomed. Look what has blossomed beautifully from it. So I'm excited. It's always good to see you and connect with you, Melissa. We will stay posted. Where can we find out more about you and your work?
Well, I always say I'm easy to Google. I'm Melissa A. Mitchell. I'm on Instagram, Abeille Creations, Abeille Creations. And then online, I'm easy, melissaAmitchell.com. So if you can remember my name and Google it, it'll lead you to everywhere you need to go.
Gotcha. Well, we will not soon be forgetting you and all your color and your vibrancy. Melissa A. Mitchell, thank you so much for being here on this episode of Classes in Session.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And to everyone watching, be sure to share this episode with all of your friends. Students, share this with other classmates. Listen, your dreams are never out of reach. They are never out of touch. And Melissa Mitchell is beautiful proof of that. A beautiful FAMU grad who is making artistry her ministry, her mission, and her business venture and her passion as well. So again, feel free to stay posted on the latest and greatest coverage on Black Enterprise's social media channels and also on blackenterprise.com. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Classes in Session. I'm your host, Ashley Stevens, and class is dismissed.